Well, welcome to the Okanogan Forest channel on YouTube. It's a pleasure that you're here, and today's video is about bushcraft knives and frugal bushcraft. And so I want to ask the question, what is the best bushcraft knife ever made? Well, in my way of thinking, it's the one that you have on hand and the one that is there for you to use if you know how to use it. Now let me show you a few of the things I've got and try to make the point. And I'll start with the oldest knife I have. If this is all you have, then you could go right ahead and use this for bushcraft and be perfectly fine. This is an old case that was my father's fishing knife in the 1950s. I don't use it much now, but I keep it around, and if that was all I had, that would be fine. You really don't have to go out and buy the latest knife advertised on TV by some celebrity who thinks he knows about survival or how to live life or anything like that. You don't. You really don't. You probably have knives in your kitchen drawer that would be just fine for bushcraft if you think about it a little bit and learn how to use them properly. So, let's look at a couple of others. I have several, and these are not expensive, but these are two Moras. They're all situated out with Ranger bands. And this is the one, the clipper, that I use the most. I have it so that I can just put it over my head like that, and I'm ready to go. I've got a compass and ferris rod, fire steel, and all the rest. So I'm in pretty good shape. A whistle, all of that stuff. So it's ready for going off into the bush by myself. I also have, this is a French knife. I'm sure you know what it is, but I want to make the point with this one. This is an old one that I've carried for many years, and actually it's usually in my pocket every day. You see how I've used that lanyard to make it safe so that it won't open, and so that I can attach it to my belt or to a belt loop or in some other way. What's significant for me in this knife is that some years ago, when I was hunting elk legally in the state of Oregon, I got a big bull elk. And rather than use, which I also had at the time, this Victorinox, I ended up using this little folding knife for a lot of the work skinning the elk out. And that's important. Know how to use the tools you have on hand and you will not have problems. Some time ago I was in the Kashgar knife bazaar in Central Asia, and I picked up these two knives, and the reason I picked them up is that they have bone handles. A lot of the knives had plexiglass plastic handles. These are handmade. They're simple, but they would work fine if you know how to use them properly. And that's the case for most of this stuff. Let me say one other thing. There's a lot of controversy or comment about batoning. In other words, using a knife to make kindling. And I'm going to say something cultural now. My opinion, we can agree to disagree. But I think batoning is kind of foolish, really, unless you're in an emergency situation. Get yourself a tomahawk or a small hatchet, and you'll be able to, process all the fuel you need for a campfire in an emergency or when you're having fun. And let me also say, you can see this Mura on this tomahawk here. I've been using this simple #1 since 1969. Great knife, very economical, not expensive. Before I get to the last couple, I also want to point out that there's a lot of talk on YouTube about the different kinds of fancy bushcraft belts and so on and so forth. And I think it's honestly, a lot of hogwash. Here is my bushcraft belt, and I'll get it up there so you can kind of see the buckle. The one that I have around my waist now, if I can get it up above the table and my belly, I've been using for 30 years. 30 years. And it works all the time, hunting, hiking, whatever. And it's never caused a problem. Now, if by chance I'm carrying a heavy piece of steel, a peacemaker on my side, sometimes I'll use a strap like this and tie it so that it will support the weight. And you can then have a firearm on your waist and hike all day long and it's not a problem. But let me get to the last two knives that I'm going to point out before I say goodbye to you today. And again, the point is frugal bushcraft. Know how to use your tools. Don't waste your money. Get out into the outdoors and enjoy the beauty of nature instead of spending your money at the mall or sending it online to some guy on TV. This knife, I made the sheath out of an old notebook, and I bought this in Shanghai. It cost $7, and it's got 3 rivets. It's nice. I put Ranger band to make the handle a little bit better. What's kind of interesting to me about this knife is that when I was in the shop, the shopkeeper looked at me and said, 这个刀子是杀猪的一个刀子，就杀猪的. Well, what that means is basically this is a knife for sticking pigs or butchering pigs. And of course, the implied meaning is it's a big enough knife for other things too in that genre. I don't use it for that. I use it for tomatoes and all kinds of work in camp, and it really, really works well. But here's the point of this video. You don't have to spend a lot of money to equip yourself and be in the outdoors. Last week, I got a new knife, and I've decided to call it my centennial knife. And the reason I call it my centennial knife, everyone here in the United States knows that 76 is the centennial year. Well, this knife, in its entirety, cost me 76 cents. And it's a wonderful bushcraft knife. I made the sheath. It's got 3 brass rivets, you can see, full tang, and will do all the kinds of bushcraft work you'd want to do out in the outdoors. The sheath is made simply from a piece of an old belt, some old credit cards taped together, and some post office envelope tie-back. And I was a little creative by putting the little logo piece here that says guaranteed, tracked, and insured. Well, I get a lot of satisfaction out of this because it's a good tool that I will use for years, and I wasn't foolish about wasting my resources to get it. Well, I hope you have a nice day, and I hope you understand my point. I'd love to hear from you. And if you have a way of practicing frugal bushcraft, please share it. Share it with me and share it with everyone else. And again, these are just simply my ideas. And they're there for the taking, for free, for anybody to use. Thank you for listening, and I'd love to hear from you. Let me show you this beautiful place that I'm sitting in now.
She said there's all kinds of parking.
Well, as you can hear, there are people in the park with their dogs and having fun. It's a beautiful day. Let me give you a close-up of the stuff on the table. That tomahawk is an H&B, hand-forged. I bought it second-hand and have had it for, I don't know, 25 years, and it works as good now as the first day I bought it. Well, I hope you enjoy the day, and I hope you've enjoyed this video. I'm not sure if you can see it, but across the water there is the Olympic